Good day to you on this lovely 13th of July, 2023. We are bringing you episode 66 of All the Horrible Things.
Okay.
Did you get your free Slurpee 2 days ago on 7-Eleven Day?
I did not.
I did not either, and I usually do, and I regret it. I remember there was a summer where I would bop around to like 4 or 5 7-Elevens.
Really?
And just really have a meal of Slurpee.
That's impressive.
Oh
they
my
should
goodness!
like stamp your hand or something.
They should do something along
Sure,
those lines.
your tongue is bright red.
I take advantage of promotions any chance I
Yeah,
get. I
mean,
remember there was one summer where you can bring in any currency to get a free Big Mac. You can bring in like a 1 penny or 1 pence coin from England and you'll get a Big Mac, you know?
Wow.
Didn't matter the amount, just had to be a foreign currency. Oh, you better believe I ate 3 or 4 Big Macs in one day. It was terrible.
So it sounds like you're very healthy.
Yes, I definitely am. The blood's pumping, and that's what matters.
That's all that matters.
Synapses is firing, so I can't complain. But speaking of promotions
And pumping blood.
I have the privilege today to talk to y'all about Talk to Me, which is a horror movie that isn't actually even released yet. It's coming out in 2 weeks, I believe, 2 Fridays from now. And I saw it as a promotion. Regal Cinemas has this really cool thing, which I'd only learned about in the last month or so, where they have these $5 mystery movies on Monday nights. And this is the first time they had a rated R one. So when I saw that, it got me excited timing-wise, because I was thinking within the next 2 weeks, we also have Oppenheimer coming out, which obviously we could talk about on All the Horrible Things. So I took a chance, and I got these $5 tickets while it wasn't Oppenheimer, which is probably good because it wasn't an IMAX anyways. It was Talk to Me, which was absolutely the best thing it could have been. Possibly even more so than Oppenheimer, because I didn't even... It was kind of on my radar, but I didn't know what it was about. We're talking A24 here, horror. You know it was going to be something, and it was. It definitely was. So I'm going to be talking about that. But first, I want you to dig into Insidious 5, because while I have not seen it, I want to know whether or not I really should go back and reinvest in this series or not.
Sure. It is Insidious 5, The Red Door. And I will say that I think the critics are being a little too hard on it, because I don't think it's as bad as they're making it out to be. I thought, this is Patrick Wilson, the star. This is his first film that he's directed. This is his debut. And I thought he made a lot of great choices. In the last episode, we talked about jump scares, and I thought that there's a handful, but there are 2 really good jump scares in this movie that are not cheap. There's one in an art class studio, and then there's another one that they kind of tease in the trailer that you've seen on TV, that he's in a CAT scan machine, and it is one of the better jump scares I've had in a long time. Even though I saw it coming, it still gets you. And the thing about this movie is that, yes, it relies on having seen at least the first 2 movies.
Okay.
It has a lot to do with a father-son relationship, and it is Patrick Wilson and his son, who is, in the first movie, the son goes into a coma, and they think it's just, like a regular medical coma, but in fact, it is astral projecting. So he is in this place called the Further. And the first 4 movies were all written by Lee Wiesnell, who I'm a big fan of. I think he's a really good writer. I think, he wrote Upgrade, which came out like in 2018. He wrote the newer Invisible Man. He's an actor as well. He makes a cameo in this new one, which was fun. But he didn't write this most recent movie, which I thought was a really interesting choice. He just gets the credits for creating the characters. And I think that was probably the thing that felt it was probably their biggest mistake by not getting him to kind of finish off this whole series.
Why would he not? What happened there? That
I don't know.
doesn't make any sense to me. Who did write it? I mean, is this anybody notable?
So it is, yes, it is somebody that we are familiar with as of recent screenwriting credits. The guy's name is Scott Teems, and he wrote Halloween Kills.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
And that also kind of had this father-son dynamic in it too. So he's wrestling with some of his own issues.
It
clearly.
sounds like it. It sounds like it. But you know, the cool thing about this movie is that it is the same actor, the little boy from the first movie, and they do something really cool to start the movie off. They show you how that they to forget all of these things, that they're hypnotized, father son together, and they forget everything that's happened to them. It's a really cool concept, but as an audience member, we already know everything that's going on. So now you've got your main two characters trying to figure out what we already know. You know,
oh my goodness. So
you're
saying this is about ill-directed dramatic irony. This is something where us as the audience knows, but you're saying it doesn't work.
It doesn't work. It's a cool concept that doesn't have the timing. You know, it kind of feels slow at times. But yeah, it's I kind of just wish if they were to do it over, that they get in on the joke, or you know, in on the story with us sooner.
I got it.
Yeah.
Was Rose Byrne's character also hypnotized?
No. So and I don't want
interesting then. So she's kind of our conduit.
Yes.
In this one.
However, there is, I don't want to, it's tricky because I don't want to get too much into it, because you kind of learn the whole family has been shook up by this. You know, the whole family dynamic has been off. Patrick Wilson and his son do not have a great relationship. The story really is Patrick Wilson, his mother passes away, and that's played by Barbara Hershey, and she's in the other films.
Yes, I do remember.
And she's great. And she's kind of the believer. She was the believer in the family, and she's the one who brings in, why can't I think of her name as I'm trying to think of it? She brings in
the little old lady who's
Lynn Shay.
Yes, she's great.
Yeah, she's fantastic. But that was the connection in the earlier films. But the movie starts off with, you know, losing the grandma, and Patrick Wilson's character wants to try to reestablish his relationship with his son, so he decides to drive him to college, you know, and it doesn't go well. And you could see that it's the fun thing about their relationship is that they are so alike, but they don't know it, you know, because they've been hypnotized. They're dealing with the same types of issues and nightmares. Yeah.
Okay, so it's starting to percolate. They're being haunted by what's happened. Would you mind just really quick, because I know I saw the first one, and I know I wasn't completely enamored with it. I really loved the design of the monster.
Yeah.
I actually did like the family dynamic and the astral projection, but there was something about the direction, maybe, or the shallowness of the story. Maybe I should go back, but I know I saw the first one.
Yeah.
Would you mind giving me like a quick rundown of what each of the four prior kind of represents? And like, you know, you give me a quick little plot line for each, if you will. What are they going for? What are they aiming for? And which ones succeed and don't?
Right. So the first two, the first one was directed by James Wan, you know. So the first one, as I was saying, is about the son getting into a coma. They think that their house is haunted. This was really cool. They thought that they were being haunted, but they didn't realize that it was actually their child. And they actually move into a new home, and it continues to happen. And that's when they bring in Lynn Shay to try to figure out what's going on. They connect it more in the second one, where we find out that this is a family issue that goes back a long time to when Patrick Wilson was a little boy. Barbara Hershey, that's how she meets Lynn Shay, is that she needs help with her son. They do a really good job in the first two films it does continue into the third, but they do a great job of connecting the films as if when you're in the second movie, you see stuff that's happening in the first movie, and because I think they happen simultaneously. Like the second one picks off immediately after the first movie, and they do such a good job of when they go into the further, they're seeing things that happened in the first movie, and it kind of just connects this world really, really well. Yeah, and I believe the third film was more of a departure, and it follows a different child. I haven't seen the third.
Really?
I haven't seen the third one in a long time. I believe it follows a little girl. And I think that they were trying to expand the universe, kind of like James Wan has done with The Conjuring, which all these films are supposed to happen in the same universe, I believe. But
well, I didn't know that.
Even though you've got the monsters are all part of like the same world, even though Patrick Wilson has played two different characters within this cinematic.
Oh, that's right. Yes,
yeah.
I love the Conjuring movies.
Yeah,
so I'm really kind of hoping to be sold on the Insidious train because, pardon me, what you're saying with the connection I like, but to me it seems like this concept would have been better as a streaming series.
Probably.
I feel like I might have enjoyed it more. I feel because so he's driving his kids to college in this new one, which means the first one was 10 years ago, 12 years ago.
Oh gosh, I think
they've packed 5 movies in a short time. Is what I'm saying.
Yes,
which is troubling. It wouldn't be troubling if it was a series, I feel like, but I mean, I stand corrected in terms of the box office because it destroyed Indiana Jones, which you would think would be impenetrable at the box offices, but I was excited because Phoebe Waller-Bridge is part of it, co-wrote it or whatever. Yeah. I ain't going to see that, and I had really zero interest in seeing Insidious, but it sounds like it is worth a look.
It is. If you were, this is what I would suggest. I would go and actually watch the other films again, because when I was watching the 5th movie, there were things that I'm like, oh yeah, that happened in that movie, but it wasn't. It didn't necessarily influence my viewing. It just would have been better if I had recently rewatched them. I like the 4th movie, the Last Key, almost felt like they were wrapping up the series, and that's where I think there's a really divide here, is that I don't think Lynn Shay is in the 4th movie. I think she's in the 3rd. But yeah, you're right. They packed a lot within the very first film was in 2010. Insidious Chapter 2 is in 2013. 3 is in 2015. The Last Key is in 18, and then we have The Red Door.
That's a big jump.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, but like I said,
will there be more?
I don't think so.
Okay,
I don't think so.
Well, it sounds like with this writer who stopped at 4, like you said, if he kind of was aiming at wrapping it up, then that's why maybe that's why he wasn't on board with the last one. He's like, I've told the story as far as it should be told.
Yeah.
Everything after that is kind of...
Honestly, I think the most recent one got made because Patrick Wilson was directing it.
It's a good payday for that man. Am I wrong? I like Patrick Wilson a lot, but you don't really see him outside of genre films of late. Which is interesting because in his earlier career, I felt like he had the trajectory to be kind of this leading man in more mainstream dramas.
Definitely.
But now he's kind of become a genre guy, and he is very likable. I'm surprised he took on the directing chair. Do you see him continuing?
I do.
On that path?
I do, and I bet you he loved it. I had heard some interviews of people like working with him, and they had a blast. I think he's been an actor for so long, and he's worked with a lot of great directors, and he's worked with James Wan, who's a really great horror director. So I think he's learned a lot of the setups, and like I said, the jump scares were not cheap. They were fun and well deserved. There just are some Insidious tropes. Like, I mean, it's the same demon that you're working with, and so I really think
I do love the design of it, but there's a little silliness to this demon, right? He's kind of like punk rock sort of spiky.
They refer to him, they refer to him as the lipstick demon. Like, I think,
okay,
yeah, and In the first movie, there's that amazing jump scare, maybe one of the best like of all time, over Patrick Wilson's shoulder. It's kind of hard to keep using that same monster for more jump scares. So the ones that work in this movie aren't necessarily connected to that demon. So, or not directly
really
the demon's face. So yeah. It's
I could see a CAT scan being a great opportunity. We recently talked about alien movies, and there's a CAT scan scene in Communion with Christopher Walken. There's no jump scare involved, but it still gives you kind of the chills. Have you had a CAT scan?
Never, but I mean, as you're watching this scene, you do, as an audience member, feel very claustrophobic. I mean, I think it's going to change the CAT scan for a lot of people too, having seen this.
Yes. I mean, I had one about 4 years ago now, because right after COVID started, I had hearing loss. They couldn't figure out what was going on in my right ear, so they had a CAT scan, and they still couldn't figure it out after it. But I remember the experience vividly. I think one of the best depicted CAT scans is in The Sopranos, obviously, when Tony starts having his... But there's something about him. It's like a living coffin sort of thing.
Right.
When you're in there, like, it feels like you're buried in like an alien coffin almost. Right. And then just like the implications thereof, if they find something, you are headed toward the grave. So
yeah, it's not...
it's a good avenue to hit you with a jump scare. So I'm very curious about that one.
Yeah.
What else? Is that it? So see it if you're a fan. Wait till
I'd say
video if you're middling.
Yeah, I'd say if you're a completist and you've seen all the other movies in the theater, I would say do it. I would say see it with a large crowd, because they do have like the great jump scares. I would say if you are somebody who is very affected by bad, reading bad reviews, I'm not going to say you got to see it then, I will.
There was one headline review. It's the only thing I kind of read about it, was that it was made in a garbage disposal. It was cut and edited. Yeah, but to each their own.
Yeah.
If I'll admit, I really love The Conjuring. Did that come out before the first Insidious? Do you know?
That is a great question.
James Wan, to me, is hit or miss. I know you're a huge fan, but sometimes I struggle with the direction that he takes.
Yeah.
Like in The Conjuring, I feel like he nails it.
Yeah.
I felt like Insidious was one of those moments where I needed something a little bit more, with more depth, I think.
Right.
As I noted before, I needed that extra. You wouldn't consider it elevated horror, right?
No. No, it's just fun, classic. Go to the movie theater if you want to get scared, and kind of sit at the edge of your seat at times. To follow up your question, The Conjuring came out in 2013, and as I said a moment ago, Insidious came out in 2010. But the cool thing is that James Wan and Lee Wiesel, they're really good friends, and James Wan put Lee Wiesel in the Saw movie, so he's one of those familiar faces now in the genre, and like I said, I think he's a good horror writer.
I know you love that one that he did. What was it last year? What was that called? Starts with an M, Mal something. Am I off?
Oh, the James Wan film.
Yes. One with the lady with the face in the back of her head, right?
Yeah.
I know you love that one. That made your list and everything.
I did enjoy that. That was called Malignant.
Yes.
Yeah.
That to me was kind of Insidious vibed, whereas The Conjuring, I feel like, does have those layers that I kind of want. I don't necessarily need them, because Malignant was fun. It was fun, but there's a goof level to it to me. I couldn't really get scared in the way that I wanted to get scared.
I understand that.
Are those so those two are his main properties? What else is James Wan known for? Anything else?
Oh, James Wan has done a ton. I mean, most recently he did Aquaman, but before that, James Wan, he's done the first Saw film.
There you go. Okay, that's epic. That first Saw is amazing.
The first Saw, and that's what I was saying, that Lee Wiesel is one of the guys who's chained up to the wall with Carrie Elways in that scene. So he No, he's done a lot. I swear that he's done a Fast and Furious movie too.
Oh, that's not a good thing.
But the guy
to have on your
is
resume.
well-rounded.
Makes money though. Yes, that is a good point. Yeah, I didn't because the first Aquaman's very cool. I mean, you would think that would be one of the most ridiculous superhero movies ever. I mean, what was in Entourage? You have James Cameron supposedly making this because he loves to work with water, and it was just kind of like lambasting the concept of an Aquaman. But he pulled it off. The first Aquaman's pretty good. I'm not too excited about seeing the next one. Does he do the next one that's about to come out?
I believe he is. Yeah, I believe James Wan is.
All
yeah.
Right. I don't know. The whole Amber Heard thing's got me a little turned off from.
Yeah, I understand.
Giving it a shot.
James Wan also directed Dead Silence. That's a movie I think we need to talk about. It's the ventriloquist dummy. But the guy's got a pretty interesting career between big films as well as sequels. You know, The Conjuring, Conjuring 2, Insidious 2. He did do Furious 7, which is one of the more fun Fast and the Furious movies.
You've seen all the Fast and Furiouses?
Yeah, they're ridiculously fun.
I gotta admit, I'm surprised.
Well, here's the thing. I, even growing up, was a huge fan of just junky action movies, you know? And
I get it.
I have never gone into a Fast and Furious movie expecting it to be good. I am going in there to see what ridiculous thing they're gonna do next.
Okay, so it's more about the effects and the grandiose sequences.
Absolutely, the stories are the same in every movie.
I could see maybe watching the series with a drinking game or something. You know,
right,
I would need an extra in real life motivation to. I did see the first one in the theater because I liked Paul Walker. He was badass back in the day, and I remember one of his movies, Running Scared, is always stuck with me. Him and I think it was Vera Farmiga, who obviously is a scream queen.
Conjuring.
That was a great movie. And then yes, of course, The Conjuring. That's interesting though. But the last thing I want to ask you about your Insidious experience was the audience big? Was it sold out? What was the movie dealing with?
We saw it Thursday night, and that's when it technically came out, Thursday, and I feel like it was maybe half full. I will say I have become so disappointed in audiences at the theater now. You've got people on their phones, and people don't know how to act in the movie theaters anymore. It's like, you're not on your couch at home. Why did you come here? They're bringing their little kids. They're talking on their phone. It's absurd. It's not helping the movie theaters.
Oh, the whole industry. I mean, what can you do about that though? I mean, that's one of those things.
Bring ushers back into the movie theater.
Or hopes that Google or Apple gives us those contact lenses where all that can happen without people being disturbed by it,
Yeah.
I get it. But if I may, let me bust into Talk to Me.
I'm very excited.
As noted, it is about to come out. So this is our first pseudo exclusive. It's got a couple reviews up there, but I don't know. I feel kind of fun. We're ahead of the game. Usually we're talking about old 1980s or.
It's been a while since we've done the 80s, but yeah.
That's true.
I hear you.
Yes. So first of all, let me say it's definitely worth seeing in the theater. This is A24, so the production value is out of this world. Interestingly, this is an Australian horror film.
Love that.
As I'm sure you could guess what I'm alluding to, one of the best Australian horror films, maybe even horror films of all time that's come out in the last 5 or 6, 7 years, maybe within the last decade. Can you guess what I'm thinking?
You're about to say Babadook?
The Babadook. Yes, and interestingly, so you got brothers who are the directors, and one of them co-wrote it. These brothers worked on Babadook. One was part of the camera and electrical crew, and the other one is just called additional crew. But I find that very interesting because I saw a lot of Babadook in it, and in a good way, because it's truly its own story. But I will say the mood, the atmospherics are very similar to what goes down in Babadook, and I really appreciated that. In terms of the story, I would say perhaps it's more of like a Hereditary, and in structure, which I'll get into in a little bit, and just like it has a grit to it. I'm not sure if you've ever seen the Australian drama, Animal Kingdom.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yes. Who's that amazing guy from Bloodline in it? That's where I first saw him. He's now in Secret Invasion on Disney. Anyway,
Ben Mendelsohn.
Ben Mendelsohn, yes. There's something about the Australian vibe, the cinematic vibe that is just so unique to me. And the way that it then, when it applies to horror, there's something about just the isolationness feel of like, it's kind of like a huge island. You know what I mean? They do feel like disconnected.
Sure.
And I feel like Australian horror filmmakers know how to tap into just geographically what that probably does to their psyche, and I see that a little bit in here. So yeah, I'm only things I'm not going to spoil any major plot points or character deals, but I will touch on stuff that's in the trailer. So I would suggest, if you don't want to, if you like to go into the movies with knowing nothing and you haven't even seen the trailer, come back. But if you've seen the trailer, I think you're going to be fine, and I'm not going to be hitting you with anything too spoily. That being said, amazing SFX, and specifically the sound. Mara walked out of there saying that was one of the best sound designs I've ever heard in a film.
Wow.
And I can't deny it's fact that the sound is almost like sentient in a weird way. There's a really good example. It has one of the best attention getters you could have in a horror film, and it starts really abrupt too. But there's just this moment with the mom at this party. She's cutting up carrots, and just the sound of those carrots being cut is alluding to something that's about to happen. And it just, I don't know. It was a very aware sound effects. I don't know. Yeah, it was a strange takeaway, but I think it's very accurate. And this is interesting because we talked about Insidious not necessarily being elevated horror, and I feel like this one sort of is like consciously walking the line, because it could have gone a different direction where it was very overtly elevated, but it doesn't, because it stays rooted in more of the, I don't know how you would say it, but like there's a bit of camp, but it takes us seriously. I don't know if that's an accurate way to say it, but it's doing things I haven't seen done before, and in a way that like a lot of people might consider elevated horror pretentious. I think it's kind of like taking a jab at that, but at the same time acknowledging that there is deeper stuff happening here. Is it dealing with traumas and stuff in a new way per se? I'm not sure. If, I mean, at some point you can't, you know what I mean? There's only so many avenues you could take. But as noted in the trailer, our main character here was really fun. I hadn't seen this girl before. Her name is Sophie Wilde, plays Mia, and she's dealing with her mother had died, and it's like her remembrance day when this chain of events begins. But have you seen that? Have you seen the trailer?
I've seen the trailer. Yes. I'm very excited to see this movie.
So you have a general sense. For those of you who haven't, and it doesn't matter. Ultimately, it's kind of like almost a monkey's paw-ish sort of thing, because you have this amazing looking like mannequin arm, but it's not a mannequin arm. I don't think this is a spoiler, because it's just conjecture in the movie that this is the embalmed or ceramicked up hand of a psychic who could commune with the dead, right? So, I mean, you see this in the trailer as well. Ultimately, this is a tool in which when you grab it and say, talk to me, and I let you in, you get possessed. And who you get possessed by is seemingly random. And I'm going to leave it at that. But this is actually one of the questions I wanted to ask you, just given the premise and the plot. And if you had the capacity, because this is something that they start to play with a little bit in it, who would you want? And if this is too personal questions, who would you like to say, I let you in, or talk to me? That's past.
Right. I mean, probably my grandfather. You know, you'd probably go with like a family member that, yeah.
I would just be scared if it was any person that I like loved that has passed to be like, what the fuck you bring me back here for? I was R.I.P. and jerk.
Right.
So I think, I don't know, with all our alien talk last year, I'd probably bring back a good old JFK, see what really happened if he's about to tell us all about the aliens.
There you go. There you go.
But yeah, I think you could take this away as an elevated horror, but I choose to see it as something that's walking the line and conscious of what it is. I will say, I think there is a world to be built here. Maybe not as profoundly as Barbarian, which we talked about last year around the same time, because that has endless potential. I'm thinking this one has a lot of potential. I'm just worried, like Insidious, it might become redundant. You know what I mean? It has to really find new angles, because this one obviously is dealing with trauma, and whether or not ghosts that pop up are from people's past or not, or if they're feigning to be. But yeah, it definitely opens itself up to a sequel, and I think it's going to do pretty good. I have faith, because it's a killer trailer, man. It really sells it well. The audience. So remember, I mentioned this was a mystery movie, so you didn't even know what you were going to see when you went into this, but it was like 85% full in there, which is shocking.
Let me ask you this. Did anybody walk out once they found out it was a horror movie?
No. That's what I was actually going to say.
Yeah.
This was the first movie in a long time nobody took a bathroom break, because it was so riveting. Like, it was so compelling to watch. You normally will see people taking a bathroom break at some point.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just the nature of the sort of audience that's willing to take a chance on what they're seeing, and they're that invested. Because obviously, actually, there was a batch of grandmas we saw in there. They didn't move.
Love it. I love that. What a diverse crowd. I love it.
It kind of was. And when speaking to the audience as well, this is the first time in a long time where there are two specific moments I will not give away, because they are so impacting, where the entire audience gasps.
Ooh.
Gasps. A la the moment in Hereditary that everybody knows. I don't think there's any. I think that's the last thing that compares gasp-wise, which is saying a lot. And as I noted before, I do think structurally this is doing a lot of the same things Hereditary does.
Yeah.
I would argue, if we wanted to look at it at Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, the Act 2 of this movie is by far the best, which is so weird, because in a lot of movies you got the attention getter and the climactic amazingness. But for me, that middle zone is really where it's at, which I guess was kind of a little disappointing that I didn't enjoy the end as much as I wanted to. That being said, in Hereditary, when I first saw it in the theater, I didn't love the end that much either. I have grown to appreciate it much more on additional viewings, so that's possible what's going to happen here. But specifically, like, Mara was like, what? It was muddled, she felt like, at the end. It wasn't the clarity and consistency that you saw prior, wasn't as satisfying. That being said, it was good. I was fine with the end. I guess you could probably see it coming, though. But again, because it has such the potential to build the world, I'm curious how they might tackle it down the line. And as noted, these characters are really fleshed out. There's I don't know, I would say 6 or 7 characters of note, and they're diverse for one. And they got Miranda Otto in this as the mom, and
love her.
She's obviously a horror maven herself, and does such a great job. I mean, she doesn't kind of a similar experience that this woman has to the lady, or was it Toni Collette in Hereditary? She's kind of, but she's like where Toni Collette is the lead. She is a secondary in this one, but is dealing with similar things. And she does it well. But what I find very fascinating is, after just rewatching this trailer before the cast here, the most important character to what happens is really not featured at all. which I found really fascinating because, as
I like
noted, the middle has to do with this character and their experience with the hand. But yeah, I digress on that point. What else did I want to say about this one? I do feel like the second act is good. It was impossible to maybe live up to what they did because, as noted, I was impacted. Let's put it that way.
Right.
Maybe not as much as something as Speak No Evil, where I was left feeling like icky afterwards. This was
Icky.
This was more of a like, holy shit, sort of like
That's
visual
great.
and sound effects and yeah. Let me think about what else I can say here. Technically, it was on point, but doesn't necessarily tap into new territory, as I've already kind of mentioned. And other than kind of the Moochie, I would say at this point, traumatization, recovery sort of stuff. I wish there was means of going beyond that in these sort of horrors, but I don't know. I feel like it's the territory that enables the most metaphoric resonance. I'm not sure,
Right.
but I think that's all I can say without giving away too much.
Great.
I did really, really like it. I mean, out of 4 stars, I'd probably give it 3 to 3.5. Probably 3.5, honestly, because I think technically, like, the production value was so amazing and the character developments were so great. You can't miss watching this one.
And it sounds like it might be one of the more or one of your favorite films of the year so far.
Certainly horror films, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I think just based on the visceral nature of my experience at the theater with an audience,
Yeah.
it's gonna stick. It's one of those experiences, that's gonna stay with me. Those are rare. Like Hereditary, I remember seeing in the theater, and that stuck. I can visualize myself in the theater having seen that, and I think this is going to be similar. And it was the Regal mystery movie, my first mystery movie ever. I don't think I would go to one that wasn't rated R.
Yeah.
Looking here at the ones that were before this one, The Greatest Bear Run Ever. I think I've heard of it. Spirited. That's like a cartoon, right? Missing. I'm not sure what that is.
Oh yeah, I know
Champion.
Missing.
What's Missing?
Missing was, I believe, a Blumhouse movie that came out earlier this year. A young girl's mom goes missing in Mexico.
I saw that. I saw that on one of the streamers. That's actually really good.
Yeah, I enjoyed that movie.
Seen that one. How is that not rated R?
I mean, you don't see a lot. It's there's not as much like violence in there as you think. It's more about mystery and suspense.
Got it. Champions. Haven't heard of that one.
Yeah, it's a family comedy, I'd say, with Woody Harrelson. He coaches a basketball team.
Oh, okay. Yeah, not up my alley then. I love Woody Harrelson.
Well,
Speaking of Woody Harrelson and Lynn Shay, those two teamed up for Kingpin back in the day. He has a very memorable moment in the rearview mirror.
Sure does. Sure does.
I didn't mean to cut you off. What were you saying?
Oh, the Champions it's fun. It's funny because they have the best cast of characters. The actors are all have Down syndrome, and it's kind of a classic sports movie where you lost the job you wanted, so now you have to coach the local team.
Mighty Ducks style.
Yeah, kind of.
Okay, well, it does seem like there's a spin on it with that angle.
Yeah,
and I'll admit, I don't enjoy most sports movies, but Taika Waititi's new soccer film looks pretty funny. So,
yeah, and that's one of those ones that's on my radar as well. And apparently, there is a documentary. It's a true story, and it's supposed to be a really great documentary.
Well,
yeah,
I mean, I'm trying to open my mind to these things.
Yeah.
After Champions, they played Paint, which I got to see also at a free screening, and I liked it. Owen Wilson as kind of like a Bob Ross knockoff.
Right.
I really enjoyed that one. It was a lot more subtle than I thought it was going to be. Mafia Mama, have you heard of this one?
Yeah, I believe that's with Toni Collette.
Really?
Ironically, it seems like it wasn't made for us, perhaps.
Okay, that's fair. How about Sisu? Sisu.
It's so much fun. This is
What is that? You know all these ones. I haven't heard of.
foreign film. I saw it. It's a blast. This is from the same production team that did the John Wick films. This is a World War II film that takes place. Gosh, now I'm forgetting if it's in Norway, Denmark. It is this old man who was a soldier. He strikes gold on his land. While he's going to town to try to collect, there's a group of Nazis that show up, and they're just tanking their way across Europe, just killing people.
Wait, Nazis were killing people?
Turns out.
Okay, all right.
And Sisu is actually a word. You think it's the guy. He is this old man. He's the biggest badass in this movie. It has some of the most fun, like, violence in a feature film in a while.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. I'll put that one on the list.
Yeah.
And then the one prior to Talk to Me, I guess they do it monthly is what I'm getting here.
Okay.
Was Hypnotic. What's Hypnotic?
Oh, that one's actually not coming to mind.
No. Okay. All right.
No.
I feel like I heard of it, but yeah.
Right.
I'm not sure. But what I'm saying is, for the most part, these seem like movies worth watching, and these Regal mystery movies are across the entire country.
That sounds fun.
Everyone sees the same thing. And for $5, you can't go wrong, especially because it's 7 o'clock. So it's like perfect time.
Right.
But you just got to be willing to go out on Monday.
At what point do you know that it's going to be a rated R movie? You knew this ahead of time before purchasing?
The first one, they kind of told you on the website and on the app. And I got to say, in terms of rewards programs, the Regal's pretty decent, especially if you're willing to go to this $5 movie night. Of course, cheap ticket. But you also can get a small pop and popcorn for only $7. I mean, in a movie theater, that's
like
good.
$20
each,
otherwise.
$3.50 each. Yeah. Exactly. And you can actually upgrade those and you still get the same discount. So I don't know. I try to avoid buying concessions, but they made it hard when they made it that cheap. So I had the proper bucket there and a big old Pepsi Zero, and I was locked in, baby.
It was
great.
Was this Webster Place you went to?
I went to the Webster, but they also do it at the other Regal that's on Western.
Yeah, that's the one I go to. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. There's a little riffraff around that area, kind of like the Webster, a little bit better. But now that the Barnes and Noble is gone, it's not as much of a draw. But Pequot's Pizza's over there, and we are due for a visit.
Yeah, Nora and I go there every Valentine's Day. That's our spot.
Oh, really? That's a nice one. Good routine. I dig it.
Great pizza. Well,
yes, amazing.
Our point is that you should still see as many movies as possible in the theater.
Amen. And any chance you can get to get a discount, do it.
Yeah,
that's my philosophy.
Words to live by.
For sure. Because unless you're dealing with the type of audience you dealt with at Insidious, what I think had something to do with it is you have to be a bit of a cinephile to be willing to go to a mystery movie. And I don't think you're going to be as rude with your phones.
That's a great point. Yeah.
So there's something to that. It was kind of like a holy experience in a way.
Yeah.
That we all had faith in the screen gods.
And y'all had a great time, sounds like.
Yeah. No, it was amazing. So love to hear it. Talk to me. Check out Insidious if you're a Wan fan, it sounds like. And until then, stay alive.